Hey guys, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools channel. And if you haven't been here before, uh, welcome. Come on in. And I know I probably started too soon and nobody's in here yet. I need to start notifying my audience. That's what I haven't been doing. So I've been neglecting that, and I'm gonna jump on that. I'm gonna start being more diligent about notifying you guys ahead of time when my lives are coming on. Um, but in any case, guys, let's jump right into it. This is not going to be a long live. I know I say that a lot, but it's no need to drag it on and on. I just want to get the message out there and then let you guys marinate on it um, in your own leisure, at your own leisure, I should say. So adapt or get left behind. Well, I have to adapt right now. If you notice, this is a different background because I'm in a new space at the moment. Had to move from my old space. Actually, everybody in that particular building had to move. So, of course, I had to, on short notice, I had to find another spot. So I'm in the other spot right now. Don't want to show you guys the place. It's a mess, but it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this live tonight. It says adapt or get left behind. I had to adapt. I had to pivot. I had to figure it out on short notice how to get all the stuff out of that place, find a new spot, go through the process of being vetted to even get into this new spot. If you guys hear like noise in the background, I still have to soundproof this place. You know what I mean? There's a lot of work I have to do before it's really how I want it to be. But I figured, I want to come on tonight and just show you guys the process of what I'm going through right now. So yeah, you got to get vetted. They got to, tax returns, bank statements, all that stuff before they even look at you, right? It has, and so been going through all that. Finally got into the place, and that's why you see a different background right now. Had to adapt, guys. Had to adapt. So I'm asking you: are you adapting to the circumstances in your life that are out of your control, right? But forces you to move in another direction, right? Are you ready for that? Do you have the mindset to do that? Because a lot of people don't, and they end up stuck or they just give up. And so this is kind of I guess another mindset talk here. But if it doesn't just apply to personal life; it also applies to business as well. Has your business found it necessary to adapt, to pivot, in order to survive in the vast ocean of changes and stuff like that? So um, I looked up some examples of people that or businesses that didn't adapt, and I'm sure some of you know about them already and what happened to them. And it just drives home the point as to why it's so important to be ready, right? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? So you could pivot and move because things are going to happen, guys. But if you're smart enough, you see the red flags already and you're preparing yourself to survive any type of, abrupt, sudden changes that may hit you, right? So um, I found it interesting to do some research on some actual businesses that did not adapt. Think about it. Remember that company called Kodak? Remember they had the photographic film back in the days. Well, they didn't adapt, guys. How did they fail to innovate? Well, they developed the first digital camera. I'm referencing an article right here. If you're wondering, they developed the first digital camera, and but guess what? They didn't see the writing on the wall. The digital world was creeping in at that time, and they were so focused on the success of their photography side of the business, photographic film, that they pretty much got ambushed by the digital revolution, so to speak. And that happened to a lot of companies. A lot of I remember Jet Magazine, which is a very popular African American magazine, and I don't know about Ebony Magazine because you don't see that. I mean, I guess it still exists. I don't read a lot of magazines like that, but I remember Jet Magazine was out there, very popular, and I think they failed as well to adapt or to the digital revolution, and now they're non-existent, right? Kodak, remember them? I think another one was let's see here. Remember Nokia? Remember the Nokia phones, guys? Remember them? They said Nokia was the first to create a cellular network in the world. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Nokia was the global leader in mobile phones. But what happened to Nokia? See, that's another thing, guys. You don't have to be the first to be the winner, right? It's not about being the first out of the starting block. It's about the wisdom you have, right? If you're able to see changes coming and you adapt with the changes, and that person that started first did not adapt, it didn't matter that they were first. I know there's that saying in business says, first to market, right? Be the first to market. Yeah, I get that, right? If you're the first to market, you have a leg up, you have a head start to dominate that market, right? At least for a time before all the competitors or copycats come in. But there's been many cases where the people that were first to market, like Nokia, did not adapt. It says the company overestimated the strength of its brand and believed it could arrive late to the smartphone race and still win. Okay, so they were in the cell phone business, but they weren't in the smartphone business. And so guess what? It was too late when the other brands can't capitalize on the smartphones like the iPhone and Androids. They just squashed them just like that. So it's all about adaptation. It's not about being first. Okay, even though being first does have its merits. Imagine if Nokia was on top of the smartphone game. I mean, they would probably still be dominating now. Steve Jobs probably would have worked for Nokia. You know what I mean? So what's another example? Remember that search engine? It's still around. It's called Yahoo. Remember Yahoo? Yahoo was the thing back in the day. Google wasn't even heard of. Okay, it says in 2005, Yahoo was one of the leading players in the online advertising market, but it undervalued the importance of search in favor of pursuing a presence in traditional media outlets. Who dominates search now? Google, right? Google is the top dog. They understood that people, they're looking for information. It wasn't about, glamorizing like advertising and all this other stuff, or trying to court the traditional media outlets, like you just said. They said, no, people, the traditional media outlets will eventually come to us when we see that that eyeballs are looking for information, even the most mundane of mundane information, right? Whatever. How do you shave a cat's back or whatever? You know what I mean? So they built their search network up, and now they're dominating. So guess what happened to Yahoo? It's still out there, but it definitely can't compete. Okay, what it said, Yahoo focus more on media meant, it says their focus on media meant that they neglected consumer trends and needed to improve the user experience. Yahoo failed to develop a model to monetize content, views, similar to Google, right? So once again, it's universal. Are you looking for trends? Are you looking for what's really, important to the audience? What's really important to consumers, right? And you don't have to be the first to do that. Xerox, remember the copying machine, Xerox, the copying machine company? Did you know that Xerox was the first to invent the personal computer? Right? They were the first to do that. All right. Guess what? They did not see the writing on the wall, and they stuck to copying machines. Right? They said, okay, this is our thing, copying machines. We're not gonna. They didn't understand. Okay, they didn't understand that there is a lifespan to certain technologies, right? And they had the diamond in the rough right there with the PC, and they didn't capitalize on it, and they got took over. They got took over. We know what happened. We know what's out there. We got Microsoft, we got Apple, all that stuff, left them behind in that world. Blockbuster. Everybody knows the story of Blockbuster. It says, let's see here. Yeah, they were Blockbuster was all about cassette tapes. Video cassette tapes, And, they didn't see that, once again, that digital world was encroaching upon them, and they failed to innovate. You kind of wonder about the leadership of some of these companies, how forward thinking they are, right? I mean, come on. I mean, you can't see this stuff coming down the pike and you still want to stick to your guns because, you're getting fed. This is what's feeding you. Nothing. They underestimated that the rug could be pulled from underneath them at any point. And that's exactly what happened. Okay. Netflix came along and boom, they're done. I remember the founders of Netflix actually courted Blockbuster, actually invited them when Netflix was in its beginning stages. I forget the names of the owners of Netflix, but when they were in the beginning stages, Blockbuster actually wanted to court them, right? Possibly buy them out, and they did not sell. They did not sell, and Blockbuster may have just put them on the shelf, right? Blockbuster may have put them on the shelf. Fortunately, they didn't sell. Blockbuster missed the boat, and Netflix, took over. So once again, another example of missing the boat and not adapting. Okay. Here's another one, Segway. I remember Segway. They were those little scooters back in the days, back in the early 2000s. It says here that product was revolutionary, but they failed to see the difference between practicality and blue sky thinking, whatever that means. City infrastructure and safety were not addressed before going to market. So many critics asked why anyone would invest in something that expensive that you were not allowed to use. So obviously they didn't do their due diligence. And that was the downfall. IBM. Okay. We all heard of IBM, one of the giants in the technology field back in the days, back in the 60s and stuff like that. They came out with a family of computers designed to cover a whole bunch of applications. It says in the early 1990s, IBM failed to adjust to the personal computer revolution and thus began its downfall. The company changed its focus back on hardware instead of software solutions. Okay. It says after several transitions, IBM is one of the most potent names in the enterprise software. Okay, so they didn't necessarily die out. They did adapt after a while, but they focus more on hardware than software. Okay, so that's what happened with them. The list goes on and on, guys. I'm talking about businesses. You got BlackBerry. Remember the BlackBerry phones? Remember that MySpace. Remember MySpace? Facebook took that over. I mean, you can do the research, guys. For example, it says MySpace, pretty much fell on its knees because Facebook took over, right? Let's see what it says there. The flexibility and free expression allowed on the MySpace platform was one of its biggest differentiators and had become the most common reason for users leaving. Interesting. Yes. Like I said, the list goes on, guys. Remember Sears? Remember that department store Sears? All right. What happened to them? It says Sears was another Goliath in the catalog shopping market that remained competitive from the 1940s to the 1980s. Okay, so it had a 40-year run. What happened to them? As the market shifted away from the general store model, Sears found it challenging to adapt to the changing consumer taste. It fought and lost battles on multiple fronts, including the rise of smaller boutiques, the rise of discount stores such as Walmart, and today's current digital shopping market. So it makes you understand why leadership, right, has to be changed out every so often because they're stuck in their ways. They're too, they can't see past their nose. They can't see what's coming down the pike. So you have to bring in fresh blood, at least to get a pulse on what's happening, at that time, to replace leadership. Because if they're too, if they've been around forever and they're used to a certain way of surviving, and they can't see what's coming, they can't see the tsunami coming, then that's going to be it. So in your own businesses, are you looking at what's happening out there? Are you staying on top of the trends? Are you keeping a pulse on technology? Are you keeping a pulse on what's coming down the pipe? We're already experiencing it now with AI. AI is it's not fully adopted, but it's out there enough for anybody in any business to say, man, I need to get on top of this and see how my business can adapt to this, right? I mean, out here in Los Angeles, you got cars driving around with nobody in them right now. You got driverless cars picking up people, driving them around. I forget the name of the company or whatever, but that's just the beginning. You're living in a George Jetson era, at least the beginning stages of it. You got driverless cars right now. Remember, maybe 5 years ago, that wasn't, it was being talked about, but it wasn't a reality. Well, now today it's a reality. You'll pull up next to a car and there's no driver in it. There may be a passenger in it. So that's, how are these rideshare companies are going to adapt to that? We know the rideshare companies pretty much wiped out the taxi industries, right? They didn't see that coming. Once again, because of the digital revolution, all this is possible. But now you got driverless cars. What's that going to do to rideshare companies? What market share is that going to take away from the rideshare companies? All right. So you guys get the point, right? Let's see what Polaroid. Remember Polaroid? You took the picture and it spit out this little picture, and then you had to shake it or whatever, and then the picture came. Well, let's see. The company filed for bankruptcy in 2001 due to the digital photography boom. Who needs Polaroid when you have this and camera on it, right? The company leaders continued to believe paper print was what customers wanted. They were great people who failed, right? They had great intentions. They believed so much in their product. They were married to the product. But I'll tell you right now, guys, in the world of business and products, the divorce rate should be a good thing, right? I mean, you can't be married to a product. Right, there's too much going on in terms of the speed of technology, right? Innovation, all of that stuff, and you got to be on top of that. You got to be able to say, okay, you served your purpose. Now I got to trade you in for this one right here, right? It's nothing personal. Don't be married to the product, guys. Be married to success. Be married to being able to serve people where they are at that particular point in time. Be married to that principle, ideas. Everything else are pretty much whatever, they're embodiments of that, how you serve people. And then you drop that and it takes on another form depending on the days and times, right? We don't need Polaroids anymore. We got these, okay? Let's see. Okay, Toshiba. Remember Toshiba? Remember that? I remember that brand. Remember Radio Shack? I used to love going into Radio Shack, just looking at the stuff they had in there, the electronics and all that stuff. It says it was founded in 1921. Okay, it operated for about 50 years. The company was at its peak in 1999. It was known for supplying the best and latest electronics. What happened to them? Somebody tell me what happened to Radio Shack, guys. Let's see here. Where am I? Hold on. Tell me what happened to Radio Shack. Well, you got Amazon came into the picture, Walmart, radio, and all. Well, that's a whole nother story with Walmart. They're big in the news today over some other reasons. Radio Shack's failed attempts to spice up their game with new marketing strategies or consult a digital branding agency led them further into the red. Smartphones also led to a decline in Radio Shack sales, as the modern smartphone could do nearly everything that Radio Shack sold. Dang. So pretty much a phone summed up Radio Shack's capabilities. It was wiped out by this thing. Very interesting, guys. Guys, the list goes on and on. How are you adapting? How are you adapting? I mean, okay, let's. I won't go into all of them because I'm not going to stay long on the live here. But you had Motorola phones. Remember Motorola? They missed the boat as well. Not to say that some of these companies didn't try, but it was too hard to compete after a certain point. Okay. Remember Borders? Remember Borders bookstore? What happened to them? I used to go to Borders all the time. It wasn't just the internet and competition that killed them. It was their overall strategy. Borders opened too many stores and making it harder to shed unprofitable locations. In other words, they grew faster than their bank accounts, right? In other words, they were building more than what they could afford. And then in combination with, the internet, nobody was going to bookstores like that once the internet came out. And they had all this excess inventory in terms of stores and stuff like that, of course. So they had to lay off. It said they had to lay off, 10,700 employees after closing about 400 stores. That's a position you don't want to be in. Having too much inventory and it's not moving. Yeah, that's a business person's nightmare, but it can happen when you get too excited and you're not seeing what's coming down the pike. Remember the Sony Walkman? The Walkman? Yeah. It says Sony didn't adapt to the technological innovations such as digitization, the shift towards software, and the growth of illegally downloadable music online. Hey, listen to this. Sony had the technology to launch a better product than the iPod, but it never happened. The company was too afraid to test out something new, thinking it would threaten their compatibilities on the market. Yeah. Fear killed them, It was sitting right in front of them. And we see that happen in a few of these cases I talked about before. They just they were too scared to take that risk and try something new. Oh, here's an interesting one. National Geographic Television, one of the most respected brands in the industry. National Geographic started as the official magazine of the National Geographic Society. What happened to them? National Geographic turned down it says the company was presented with an idea to start a new NG cable channel in the 1980s. So they had the opportunity to shift from paper magazines, right, to have their own channel. I think they eventually did. National Geographic turned down the picture, so the producers decided to do their own thing. They launched Discovery Channel along with the History Channel. Okay. Remember Circuit City? Yeah, I remember those stores. This is the last one I'm going to talk about Circuit City, okay? Let's see here. In the 90s, Circuit City tried out a concept of mass retailing automobiles called CarMax, where the company built extensive lot inventories for used vehicles. However, after the company let much talented management go, consumers started complaining about the lack of knowledge of its salespeople, and the idea failed. Well, is CarMax still around? Maybe they rescued that idea. I don't know. Anyway, guys, the list goes on. Toys R Us, Pets.com, Tower Records. Look it up, man. It's just General Motors. You can learn something just reading about what they did, what these companies did not do, right? How they lost because of either fear, lack of forward thinking, lack of paying attention to consumer trends, lack of paying attention to technology and how fast it moves. You can learn. I think you learn more from people's mistakes, right, than their successes. If you learn what not to do, that's just as good or even better, right? Because if you succeed all the time, you don't know what mistakes are out there waiting for you, right? But if you understand the mistakes, you go through, you make some yourself, then not only are you humbled, but I think you're a more seasoned vet when it comes to surviving out there in the Wild West of capitalism. And let's see here. So anyway, guys, next time you guys see me, I should have my new spot up and ready. This probably be a different background. It may be the same. It depends on if I get to it or not. And I appreciate you guys for watching. If you got something out of this video, don't forget to adapt. Don't get left behind. Hit that like and subscribe. You know, got some good content out there for you. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.